Okay, so what I want to talk about tonight is this big question. I don't know if everybody could understand what I was trying to ask when I put it on social media earlier today, this evening. It was, what makes God God? In other words, what is it about Yahweh that makes him God and not just one of us, not just a mere human? I think this is a question that we all too often don't ask because we just assume the drastic difference between us and him. But I believe it's a question that is very profitable to study out, ask, and to show ourselves approved of the answer. So I figured this would be a good thing that we could go over this week. We are going to take a look at many different avenues in this. This might be a little bit longer than normal. I wouldn't think it'd be too long. But I want to really get into this. I want to really have a good understanding of this when we come out of this call and this teaching, because I do believe that it'll help us all in our scriptural understanding and our walk with the Father. So, what is it about him that makes him different than us? Okay, we can think of a lot of things on the surface, and we're going to address them. But let's ask this question first: what makes us human? What is it for humans? What does it mean for a human to be a human? Okay. So one thing that humans that we have in common is we're mortal. Okay, we're not an immortal being. We're merely mortal beings who live, or are born, live, and die. Okay. In this mortality, we have not only limited knowledge and limited strength, but also like limited presence. We're very limited in everything that we have. Nothing we really can say is unlimited in terms of human capabilities. So humans are a very powerful species, the most powerful on Earth, the most advanced on Earth, the most intelligent on Earth, and the most sophisticated on Earth. But we're still mortal. Okay? So how does that contrast to Yahweh, the God of the Bible? One big point I want to make about Yahweh is, the first point I want to make about him is he is omniscient. To be omniscient means you know all. Okay? It's Latin in origin, but it just means to have all knowledge. Okay? Unlike humans, Yahweh is able to know every event that ever happened in the past, that is currently happening, and will ever happen in the future. Thus, he knows all time and every aspect of it, and every event that has ever, is ever, and will ever happen. Compare that to humans. Humans, we have history books that help us to know about the events of the past, though not all of it is chronicled, obviously. For current events, we have like live news. We have news teams that go out and do interviews and do all kinds of stuff and stuff like that. So our news team take care of the current events. The future events, we have to go to external sources. Pagans will go to sorcery or fortune telling or something like that, or we can, or even like pagan prophets and stuff like that. People that can just tell the future, stuff like that. The believer in Yahweh has the scriptures, though we know that that the future is revealed in very small parts of the future is revealed in the scriptures. So we can go to that. But we don't have this understanding, this limitless understanding like Yahweh does in his omniscience to know past, present, and future events and all of them and what all takes place. Next point I want to make is Yahweh is omnipotent. Okay, there'll be a PDF of this teaching come out after the teaching's over. So if you're making notes, that's cool. But if you don't have all of it, or if you know some of these big words, or if you don't know some of these big words, I'll have it in PDF for you. But being omnipotent means that Yahweh has power beyond all measure. Okay, it's all powerful. So this is in his choosing, Yahweh created the heavens and the earth. We know that Genesis 1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Okay, in his choosing, he created it in a way that the Bible portrays as a 6-day creation. Whether that be literal or metaphorical, that's not the debate here. We're just saying that he chose a 6-day creation. But he had the power to choose otherwise. Okay, he didn't have to choose 6-day creation. He could have chose a one-day creation. He could have chose 12-day creation. Or he could have just chose anything. Okay, so the point is he has power over his decisions, and even has power to choose whatever he didn't choose, though he did not choose it. That's a little confusing, but that's it. Like, there's no limit to Yahweh's power. But regardless of his method, he has the power to create. For one who believes in the Bible, and this is not a philosophy debate, I'm not arguing an atheistic perspective from a biblical perspective. We're operating under the assumption that the Bible is true and the Word of Yahweh. But because the Bible claims that Yahweh created the heavens and the earth, he is powerful. All this that we see around us was created by him. Okay? So moving on past his knowledge and his power, we get to his presence. By the way, humans can we can create some awesome things. Okay, we've got right now in this century, we've got the most technologically advanced science and stuff like this that's probably ever happened in history. But we do not possess the power yet, especially just one person possess the power to create something like an entire universe, or even one part of a universe, like one planet or something like that, or one star. We don't have that kind of power. So you see how we contrast Yahweh and humans. And now let's go back to his presence. Like I said, he is omnipresent. He is everywhere. Yahweh is everywhere. The Bible says that he is in all things. Now, this is not to be confused with the pagan religion of pantheism. Pantheism says that everything is God. Okay? The Bible teaches something different. The Bible teaches that God is among everything, in everything, and everywhere possible. This is a nice verse out of Jeremiah 23. It says, and this is Yahweh speaking, "And am I a God at hand, declares Yahweh? Am I not a God far away? Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares Yahweh? Can I not see him, declares Yahweh?" It's from Jeremiah 23. That's Yahweh's own declaration of his presence everywhere, at hand, far away, and in every secret place that man is trying to hide. And for those who serve Yahweh, we've got that famous verse specifically applied to Joshua in Joshua 1:9. This is the ending part of that verse is Joshua 1:9b. "Do not be frightened or dismayed, for Yahweh your God is with you wherever you go." Now, that can be applied more than just to Joshua, because we know that Yahweh was with Abraham. Pretty much everywhere Abraham went. Yahweh was with Moses. Yahweh was with Aaron. Yahweh was with the apostles, David, everybody. Okay? And unlike humans, he can do that. We humans can't be in two places at one time. We can only be in one place at one time, cognitively, or alive. I'm sure if your ashes are scattered, you're going to be in more places than one time. But alive and active and moving and conscious, we can only be in one place at one time. However, Yahweh in his conscious can be in all places at all time. Not pantheistically, as in everything is him, but he can be in all. Okay? Let's move to his immutability. This is another big fancy word. This is one of my favorite topics of biblical theology. Being immutable means that you abide forever and that you can't change, nor are you subject to death, decay, or birth. Birth, death, or decay. In a very blunt manner, we probably all know the verse in Malachi 3:6. It says that I am Yahweh, I do not change, or I change not, depending on which version you're reading. But when compared to humans, a popular verse from Numbers 23 sums up God's immutability. This is Numbers 23:19. God is not a man that he should lie, or a son of man that he should change his mind. He has said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? That's from Numbers 23:19. So if he were a God of change, that wouldn't be really secure. Nothing could be certain. Okay, his promises would go unfulfilled. His words would be lies, could be lies, and his life could expire. That's not a God I would want to put confidence in, is it? That's like the gods of the Greeks, and the Romans. Like it talks about gods and demigods being able to be killed and stuff like that, but Yahweh's not like that. Yahweh is immutable. Yahweh is not subject to birth because he was uncreated. He was not subject to death because he can't die, and he's not subject to decay because that would mean he died, and just on and on. Now, not getting into a philosophical debate, but to sum that up, Yahweh is a necessary being. Okay, we're going to touch on that in the next part too, but he's a necessary being. It is absolutely necessary that he exist. Okay, so when we go from his knowledge, his presence, his power, now we're going to get to his essence of existing. Okay, a lot of people ask the philosophical question, well, if God created everything, who created God? You know, stuff like that. I don't want to debate that right now, as we're not debating from an atheistic perspective to a biblical perspective, but we are, like I said, he is a necessary being. That just means that it is necessary that he exists for all else to exist. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in the world that things are necessary to have the next thing exist. Okay, so like this light in my bedroom, this light would not exist right now, radiating from that particular point, if that incandescent light bulb did not exist. So for the existence of the light to be here, then the existence of the light bulb is necessary. Thus, that's what we can see Yahweh as. The existence of us is a evidence of his necessary existence. But more specifically, Yahweh is the creator, not the created. Okay, jumping from his existence to his creation ability, which also shows his power. But when Moses asked him for his name in Exodus 3, he didn't tell him his name immediately. Remember, he says, and then the next verse in Exodus 3:15 is when he reveals his name, Yahweh, to him. But in Exodus 14, or in Exodus 15, I'm sorry, Exodus past that is when he reveals Yahweh. But Exodus 15, when Moses asked him for his name, he replied, I am that I am. Okay? This explains his essence. This explains his existence more than just the title Yahweh. Okay? Yahweh is a derivative of this big, not very large, but this phrase in Hebrew, which just means the one who exists. Like, I exist because I exist. Stuff like that. It's a very hard translatable phrase, but we translate it, I am that I am. Okay? Now, because he chooses to say that first rather than say his name, because Moses said, what's your name? I'm going to tell the Egyptians. And he says, I am that I am. He didn't tell Moses his name immediately. Okay, he did right after that. But that shows that Yahweh is more concerned with what it means to be Yahweh than actually identifying him as Yahweh. Does that make sense? He wants to show you, I exist, because that's what that phrase means. It's more important that Yahweh exists than it is to know his audible identification, okay, his name. Not undermining his name, absolutely not. But I am showing there is something a little more important, and that is the understanding of what his name means and what he means and what he is. Now, contrasted to humans, we die. Okay, at our death, our life is expired. We are dead. It is only after that Yahweh breathes back into us life at the resurrection do we even live again. Okay, so our existence is not necessary. His existence is necessary. So compared to humans, he trumps us once more. He is completely immutable, where we are subject to change, death, and decay. He is not subject to neither of those. Okay? So we are mortal, and he is immortal. Now, having said all of this, we have a little bit better understanding of why Yahweh is Yahweh and we are humans and what that means between the two and why we aren't him. But I want to ask another question on top of this. And I didn't promote this one, but this is the second part of this whole little teaching. I want to ask, if any creature other than Yahweh completely possessed all of these attributes, because that's what makes him Yahweh, right? His attributes and them being much more than our attributes are what make him Yahweh. If a being other than Yahweh completely possessed all of these attributes, what would that say about that individual? Okay? Ponder that for a moment and think about it. If somebody else, or if anyone else had the same exact attributes as Yahweh, which defines him as Yahweh, as God, what would that say for that individual? Okay? This is where I want to take it to the next step, and I want to talk about Yeshua. Jesus, for those who don't know. Yeshua being his Hebrew Aramaic name. Jesus and Yeshua, they can be, either one is identifying the same person. I'm not talking about somebody else. Okay? Just like his father Yahweh, Yeshua completely possesses the attributes of his Father. We're going to go through every single one of these as we did with Yahweh, but I'm going to show you that Yeshua is just as capable of possessing this attribute as Yahweh is. Yeshua is omniscient. That was the first thing we said about Yahweh. The death of Lazarus. If anybody's familiar with John's account of Lazarus' death, you'll remember that in John chapter 11, Lazarus is dying, and Yeshua and his disciples are not with him, are not around him. They actually wait 4 days after he dies before they show up. But Yeshua said in John 11:11 that he had died, and nobody had told him yet. So he had this knowledge, this outside knowledge of Lazarus' death before anybody else did, because they're like, how do you know? And then he said, well, he's asleep, and I'm going to wake him up, but stuff like that. Now, during the disciples' fishing efforts, this is recorded in, I think, 3 of the 4 Gospels, but they're fishing, and he shows them exactly where to throw the net because he knows where the fish are. Okay? He could have he could have willed the fish into the net, if you want to take that route, which is just going down to another point that I'm going to make in a minute. Or you can say that he knew where they were. What about the fish that had the coin in its mouth when he said to pay Caesar? He pulled the coin. He pointed to that fish and told him it's in that one. He knew exactly what fish it was. He knows. Okay? But here's a declaration made by him in Matthew 11 that's even more exclusive to him than we could ever have knowledge of. It's Matthew 11:27. It says this: all things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone whom the Son chooses to reveal to him. So he knew Yahweh in a way that we don't know, unless it's revealed to us by him. So he has the power and the knowledge of Yahweh that is not just immediately given to us. We just don't automatically have that power to know Yahweh, but he does. And Yahweh is the only one who can truly know him according to the scripture, okay, according to his own words. So you can see Yeshua is omniscient. He has the ability to know all things just as his Father did, whether it be a fishing trip or the death of his friend, or even know the Father, literally, to gnosko and to experience and to know fully, as the verse would say. So let's move on. Yeshua is omnipotent. This is the second thing I said about Yahweh. This is the all-powerful word. Remember when in Luke 8, when they are in the storm, Yeshua and his disciples are on the boat, Yeshua falls asleep, and a storm shows up. And they urged him, trying to wake him up, and they said this, it's Luke 8:24. And they went and woke him, saying, Lord, Lord, we are dying. And he woke up and rebuked the wind and raging waves, and they ceased, and there was calm. Okay, so he has power over the storm. That would be power over creation, the elements, the earth, nature. So he has power over nature. Now, I know that Moses had power over the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds when he split the water. And I believe that anybody can be given any type of power. But every time it seems to be that someone's given some kind of supernatural power in the scriptures, it's Yahweh has been mentioned as the one doing it. Okay, like when Moses goes up to the Red Sea, he says, "Split the water so that they know that I am doing this to Pharaoh." And it actually says, "And then Yahweh made the waters collapse back onto Egypt." It didn't say that Moses led them. So that was obviously Yahweh working through Moses. But this time, there was no reference given to the Father for this act on the storm. This was all Yeshua. There was no, my Father calmed the storm for us through me. No, this was him. Okay, and the authors of the New Testament made a point when they wrote their epistles and their words rhetorically to teach. And if that had been the intended meaning, they would have included something like that. Okay, but more specifically and more rhetorically, the author of Hebrews speaks of Yeshua's power over all creation. This one's undeniable. This is Hebrews 1:3, one of the most beautiful intros to any biblical book besides John, I believe. Hebrews 1:3 says, "He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power." There are, I think, 5 verbs within the first few verses of Hebrews, and none of them are attributed to the Father. Okay, Yahweh is seen as the indirect object or direct object in the verbs, but literally in the Greek construct, the only subject throughout all of that, all of the beginning of Hebrews, is Yeshua, the Son. So any verb has to be attributed to Yeshua. Just to throw that out there before we start saying, well, and he upholds the universe, the pronoun he would be Yahweh. No, in Greek construct, there has to be a noun given before a pronoun to say that it would be him. You can't just throw pronouns in there and have a random predicate nominative. So this is literally about Yeshua. He upholds the universe by the word of his power. Okay? So during his time on earth, he also maintained power over diseases, demons, death, and all kinds of stuff. Okay? I mean, he cast out demons. He healed people of sickness, a lot of different sicknesses, like leprosy, stuff that was killing people and there was no cure and stuff like that. And then he rose from the dead. He had power over the grave, as John would say. He had power over all this stuff. So just like his Father, he had this power. He was omnipotent. Now, moving on to his omnipresent. He's everywhere. In Matthew 18:20, very familiar verse, it says, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, I am in the midst." So obviously, if two or more people are gathered in his name, he's there. But let's say 17 groups of people all across the world at one time gather in his name. He didn't say, well, I'm going to be here, and then I'm going to leave and go to this one, then I'm going to leave and go to this one, then we'll come back to you. No, he said, I'm going to be there. There's no limit to his presence. Okay, so he is all present. And looking at humans again, we can't be all present. Only Yahweh could be all present or omnipresent. So, and he said, I'm going to be with you to the end of the age. And when he said you, he said you all. I know in English we don't really catch that, but it's a plural second person pronoun there. I will be with you all until the end of the age. So what happens when all the disciples and the apostles split ways? They're all he's going to be with them all. He's omnipresent. He is everywhere, just like Yahweh. Okay. Now moving down to my favorite one again, the immutability of Yeshua. The book of Hebrews is the place to go if we want to learn about his immutability. I did a teaching at my university my last semester, this past, I gave it right at the end of November, I believe, or early December, on the Platonic usage within the book of Hebrews, the Platonic language in the book of Hebrews. I'm not going to get into that. That's going to be a future teaching one day. It's going to be really advanced because that is a very difficult topic. But the book of Hebrews uses certain language to explain Yeshua's immutability. Now remember, immutability is the ability to not be subject to birth, death, decay, and change. Okay, so he's not going to change. He's not going to die. He's not going to decay. He's not going to do all this kind of stuff. In the opening in first chapter of Hebrews, there are, I believe it is 7 Old Testament passages quoted in Hebrews, and they're not just like one little liners. They're long passages, but they're quoted in the book of Hebrews. Now, the cool thing about this is all of those verses, every single one of those Old Testament passages, in their original context and in their original penning, were addressed to Yahweh. Every one of them. Okay? But the author of Hebrews says otherwise. The opening line says, for whom of the angels did God ever say, and then he starts quoting. Okay, the first one, you are my son, today I've begotten you, kind of stuff like that. So, he reapplies all these Old Testament passages to Yeshua, which were initially intended to be applied to Yahweh. Okay, this was really, I think, the biggest one. This comes from Psalm 102, but it's in Hebrews 1, 10 through 12. I'm going to read it. Now remember, this was addressed to Yahweh. Okay, you, and it uses the word kurios in Greek in New Testament, Lord. However, in the Old Testament, the word Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, would be there. So, once we translate that around, but still, he applies this to Yeshua. You, Lord, laid the foundation of the earth in the beginning, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you will remain. They will all wear out like a garment. Like a robe, you will roll them up. Like a garment, they will be changed, but you are the same, and your years will have no end. That is a beautiful Psalm 102 passage that was written to Yahweh, okay? So all that in the original context was written to Yahweh. You created the heavens and the earth. You will remain. Everybody else is going to wear out like a garment, but you're going to stay the same. And then even more bluntly, the author of Hebrews says in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ, is the same every day, yesterday, today, and forever. He is the same. That is very, very, very similar to the declaration of Yahweh made in Malachi 3:6, which says, I am Yahweh, I do not change. I change not. Yeshua is the same yesterday, today, and forever. See, it's more than just a similarity between these immutability traits between the Father and Son. They are identical. They're both immutable. Actually, the entire book of Hebrews speaks upon the immutability of Yeshua, that he is unchanging, that he will not die, that he will not expire. We will all expire. It talks about the Melchizedekan priesthood in Hebrews, and says that the priest of Levi, Levitical priest, they were how does it say it? They were prevented from continuing in office because of death. But Yeshua, being in the priesthood of Melchizedek, abides forever. Therefore, he is a priest forever. Okay, see how the contrast right there between humans being mutable and then Yeshua being immutable, just like Yahweh is immutable. Now to the last point that I made about Yahweh, I'm going to make about Yeshua. This is his existence and his uncreation. Arguably, the most powerful statements ever made by Yeshua are his I am statements. Okay, they can be found in the book of John exclusively. There's 7 of them. Okay, I am the bread of life. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. All those, we're familiar with those. Now, I believe the most powerful one was during his run-in with the Pharisees in John 8. When they questioned him about Abraham, he said, Abraham looked forward to my day and rejoiced. The Pharisees questioned him. They're like, you're not even 50. How do you know our father Abraham? He's long dead. And he replied to them, this is John 8:58, truly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Now, a lot of times our English Bibles will capitalize I am right there. Okay, and I used to think, well, why do they do that? And then I found out, and then I was under this understanding that was just an error, that people were trying to maximize this statement for some reason, but actually that should be capitalized or given some kind of referral to show that it is different than just a regular I am statement. Okay, if anybody in here knows anything about any other language or knows how to conjugate or parse in other languages, you'll know that English is pretty much one of the few languages, that doesn't conjugate their verbs and their nouns together. Okay, in other words, I can say I ran. Okay, I ran. That's 2 different words. I being the pronoun or the noun, and ran being the verb. Okay, or let's say this, I say. Okay, I being the pronoun, say being the verb. However, in most languages outside of English, there is one word for that entire phrase. Okay, the subject is integrated into the verb, and what changes is either the beginning or the ending of the verb, where the stem stays the same and the ending of the verb will change depending on what tense it is. Let's say this, I say in English. Okay, I say. In Greek, it would be lego. Okay, you say would be legais. He, she, or it says is legai. See how just the ending of them changes? That's what happens in Greek. Okay, that's what we call conjugating verbs and parsing verbs. Now, in this particular verse in John 8, the word ego is I. Okay, in Greek, ego, just like the waffles. Now, I me, one word, I me, means I am in Greek. In the first person singular, I am. It's one word, like I was just explaining. But when you say a verb, you don't have to say a pronoun before, like I just said, because it's unnecessary because the pronoun is within the verb. However, if you say the pronoun and the verb, which has the pronoun in it as well, that shows emphasis. Okay, little Greek lesson here, but that is why this is an important verse, because right here he says, before Abraham was, ego, I me. I am. There's a reason he says both of them, and it's to show emphasis. This shows his exclusive existence prior to Abraham's existence. Okay, what he's saying is, actually, when you go back to Exodus 3, when we talked about I am that I am, or I am who I am, that Yahweh told Moses, literally it says right there, ego I me, ego I me. The same exact Greek words used in John 8. Yeshua is identifying himself with the great I am. He's saying, I am, I am. I am he. This is a declaration of deity that can't be taken any other way. But you wouldn't know that with the surface reading on English. That's why it's nice to know the Greek behind this. So, also, we know that his existence is like Yahweh. He existed prior to Abraham. Okay? But he is also, in the New Testament, portrayed as the creator of all things. Yahweh is, the creator of all things according to the Old Testament. But when you get to the New Testament, just like what we saw in Hebrews a while ago from the Psalm 102 that said, you, Kyrios, you Lord, created the heavens and the earth. There's a lot more places in the New Testament that says that Yeshua created everything. Here's one from Colossians 1:16. For by him, Yeshua, all things were created that are in heaven or that are on earth, visible or invisible. Other places are like John 1:3. Okay, it says, through him all things came to be, and not one thing that came to be was not made through him. Okay, Hebrews 1:2. I'll read that one real fast. That's a nice one. I'll read verse 1 and 2. Long ago, at many times, in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, through whom he also created the world. Yeshua is seen as creator. Okay? But that's exactly what Yahweh is seen as. So not only does his existence match Yahweh's, but his uncreated nature matches Yahweh. But I want to get into more because I know there's plenty of people out there that believe he was a created being. And even if you want to scrap those verses I just said, I want to go into the big verse I was getting up to into this entire teaching. And that's John 1:1. My favorite verse in all of Scripture. Okay, everybody loves this verse. I'm sure everybody knows this verse. This is my favorite verse because I understand it in a way that I really, really, really see what John was trying to say. John 1:1 typically says in our English Bibles, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, A, B, and C, parts of that verse. Now, the cool thing about this is it expresses his existence, his eternal existence, his coexistence with the Father, and his identification as the Father. Okay, I'm going to show this right now. The last part of this sentence, and the Word was God. Okay, the word there for was is ain. Okay, it's just a real small Greek word. It's eta nu. It's real small, ain. Okay, it's used 3 times in this verse. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, the thing about this verb is this is a unique verb. Not unique that it's the only time it appears in the New Testament, but it has, there is so much more meaning behind verbs in Greek than we could ever imagine in English. Okay, just like in Hebrew, there's a lot of meaning behind verbs, but there's nowhere near the amount of meaning in even Hebrew verbs as there is in Greek verbs. Okay, it's a beautiful language and it's extremely it's extremely specific. Now, the best thing about this verb is this is in the imperfect tense. Okay, imperfect. This is a running joke for like Greek people. Will say Jesus was imperfect. Get it? Because was is in the imperfect tense. But anyway, that's a little humor. The word is in the imperfect tense. Now, this denotes the fact that this verb, whatever verb you find in an imperfect tense, means that there was neither a beginning to this action, nor will there ever be an end to this action. Okay, this is a verb without the constraints of time. It has no emphasis on time whatsoever, or no identification as time. But you don't see that in English because all we see is was. We don't have imperfect tenses and stuff like that. So when he says he was, in the beginning was the Word, it can literally be said, or literally be rendered, there was never a time when the Word was not existing, or the Word did not exist. Okay? Again, in the second part of the sentence, there was never a time when the Word was not with God. In the third part, there was never a time when the Word was not God. Okay? This shows a little bit more range to the meaning of it, but when we go to look for literal translations of the Bible, which I like literal translations, but literal translations won't flesh out one word in Greek to, a whole sentence like I just said. They'll just say was, and then we lose what it means. That's why sometimes the dynamic translations are good, if you get a good one. The Net Bible would be my favorite dynamic translation. I love it, especially with its translator notes. Now, this is the next part I want to say about this. This is where we want to see the equality with Yahweh in this verse. Okay, this is going to be the last thing we talk about. We know that he existed forever prior to this. So he's an uncreated being. We've marked that off the list. Yahweh was an uncreated being. He's an uncreated being. And the Word was God. We're going to talk about that for a second. In Greek, this literally says, Kai theos ein halagos. No, you don't know what I just said, but that's what it says in Greek. In Greek, word order does not matter. Okay? Initially. In English, what do we typically do with our sentences? We do subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. Josh kicked the ball to Michaela. That's a good sentence in English to show you. Josh, the subject, kicked the verb, the ball, direct object, to Michaela, indirect object. Okay? And normally we wouldn't say, if Michaela's a subject, we wouldn't render it as to Michaela kicked Josh the ball. You know, we can't just jumble them all up. But in Greek you can, because Greek doesn't matter on word order. But you can manipulate and utilize word order to show emphasis. Okay? In other words, word order does not necessarily matter in Greek unless you want to emphasize something. So, to emphasize something in a Greek sentence, you put the most important word, or what they're really wanting to try to get out of the verb, or the verse, or the word, the sentence, I'm sorry. What you're really trying to get out of the sentence as the first word of the sentence. A good example of this is what we went over last week in Hebrews 6, where it says, in English, it is impossible for those who have tasted of the heavenly gift, blah, 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 to repent, to after apostatizing to come back. The first word in that sentence is impossible, because that's what's stressed. It is absolutely impossible for you to come back after you've apostatized. That's a good example of it. But this is the same exact case here in John 1:1c. It reads, literally, if we were to translate every word into English exactly, it would say, and God was the Word. Kai theos, and God. Ein was the logos, Word. So, and God was the Word. The reason that is because of the emphasis John wants to put on God. Okay? When you look at a Greek sentence, whatever has an article, like the, there's only one type of article in Greek, and it's the. It's a direct, or it's a specific article. The always appears on the subject of the sentence. That's how you can identify what's the subject, because there's no word order, remember, besides just looking at the endings. So the word in this sentence is the subject. Theos, God, is the predicate nominative. It's the equating verb, or the equating word, but it's not the subject because it lacks an article. Okay? Now this is getting a little deep on Greek, but just bear with me here. So by giving an article to the word, which is the subject, but putting theos, God, at the beginning of the sentence, he's maximizing the predicate nominative, which is theos, God, and not minimizing the subject, the word, but showing there's an importance here on this that you need to see, guys, for theos. So what he does is he puts that in the beginning to show that everything that God is, God was the Word. Everything that God is, the Word is. Every single thing that equating verb was that makes up God makes up the Word. Okay? Now, what's even more awesome is the fact that he does not identify Father or Kyrios, which would be normally translated as Lord, but could identify as Yahweh, the person of the Godhead as Yahweh. He uses neutral terms, God and the Word, which he later identifies as Yahweh of the Bible, as God in this gospel, and the Word as Yeshua. So he's literally saying everything about the one who plays the role as the Word, which would become Yeshua, is the exact same in every bit as the one who plays the role of God, which is Yahweh. So in one beautifully elegant, most theologically rich sentence in the entire Bible, John says that Yeshua is Yahweh. Because why? Because what makes Yahweh Yahweh? What makes him God? His attributes. Everything about him that is superior to our attributes make him who he is. But those attributes are directly shared by one other individual in all of history, in all of eternity, and that is his son Yeshua. But when you look closely, you can see that the Bible teaches that those two are the exact same entity, the exact same power that possesses all of these abilities, though they might exist in two different forms at one time or another. They are the exact same. Okay? So what makes God God? His attributes. What makes humans humans? Our lack of attributes compared to him. But then what makes Yeshua him? The fact that he's God.